Wait, the Cowboys just traded Micah Parsons? They just traded Micah Parsons?
Our Adam Schefter reporting that the Cowboys are now listening to trade offers for Micah Parsons. What's your reaction to that?
Micah Parsons, hey, look, you can report all you want. There's no way they're allowing Micah Parsons to go anywhere. All of this is part of the negotiations. And as I talked to Jerry the other day on my podcast, and he was talking about it the other day when he tried to make that offer, he said somebody told him to shove it up his rear and all of that. I honestly, it blew my mind. It blew my mind that any kind of conversation like that would be going on in a situation like this. Micah Parsons, I want him to take control of this thing and say, I don't care about you two and whatever y'all got going. Get your butts in a room and get my money on that paper. That's what you need to be doing. So I'm hoping that's what gets done. But I guarantee Micah Parsons not going anywhere. Jerry's not that crazy. This is all what we call just negotiation stuff.
What if I told you Jerry Jones might have just handed the NFC East to his biggest rivals and didn't even blink while doing it? Micah Parsons, gone, traded, just like that. The face of the Cowboys defense, arguably the second most important player on the entire team, right behind the quarterback, is now wearing green and gold. Fans are stunned. Former players are furious. And the entire NFL world is asking the same thing. What the hell just happened? This isn't just a big trade. This is franchise altering. It's the kind of move that sends shockwaves across the league, not just because of its timing, but because of what it says behind the scenes. Micah wasn't just traded for draft picks and a veteran. This deal came from personal tension, broken trust, and a silent war between his agent and the Cowboys front office. A war Jerry Jones just chose to end his way.
This is the epitome of pride comes before the fall. I gotta walk away from lunch for this one. You do realize Micah Parsons and Reggie White are in the same breath as far as having double-digit sacks 4 consecutive years to start a career. Jerry Jones, you do realize that Micah Parsons is like a first-ballot Hall of Famer, period, based on his trajectory. You do realize that Micah Parsons is a top 3 pass rusher in the entirety of the game of football. And top 3 pass rushers do not grow on trees. You do realize outside of quarterback, the most important position is pass rusher and then left tackle. You said you got quarterback, and you just traded away your pass rusher. There is no amount of money, draft capital, or players that should be given up for Micah Parsons. The objective of drafting an elite player is for that player to end up being elite, and you pay that player. Not to draft an elite player, develop him into an elite player, and then you trade that player. This may be the most nonsensical decision that Jerry Jones has ever made, and he's made a lot of them. I gotta finish my lunch.
And now, the Cowboys are left without their defensive engine. Meanwhile, Green Bay just added one of the most terrifying pass rushers in football. A dude who's been breaking records since day one. But here's where it gets wild. This wasn't just about money. Some say Jerry took this trade personally. Others believe a bigger plan is already in motion. And losing Micah might be part of something much darker. Or much smarter than anyone saw coming. So what really led to this shocking decision? What does it mean for the Cowboys' future? And could the Packers be pulling off one of the most dangerous moves of the decade? No one expected the news to drop like this. It wasn't leaked days in advance. There were no obvious warning signs. Just a quiet morning. Then boom! Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers. Social media exploded. NFL insiders scrambled. And Cowboys Nation left speechless.
Is there anybody particular around the league that you feel like should come into the organization, can make an impact for y'all?
I mean, the dude sitting right next to me, man. You know what I mean? That'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty cool, no? You don't think so? You don't think so? How you feel about that? What would your take be on coming to Green Bay, man? Oh, it's too many Cowboy fans in the audience. It's too many Cowboy fans. My fault.
All right, listen.
My fault.
I'm in one of them Drewski 360 deals. You feel me? I'm a for lifer.
I like that.
I can't go nowhere.
I like
Man,
that.
Jerry Jones, we done talked. You know, that's my dog.
This wasn't just some mid-tier player on a contract year. We're talking about Micah Parsons, a generational talent, one of the league's most feared defenders. Gone. Traded like a chess piece. And not just to any team, to a historic rival with Super Bowl ambitions. It felt like a gut punch to Cowboys fans across the country. The deal Green Bay sent 2 first-round picks and veteran defensive tackle Kenny Clark to Dallas. On paper, that's a solid package. But emotionally, symbolically, it felt like the Cowboys waved the white flag on the season, and maybe even the next few. News outlets went into overdrive. Some praised Green Bay for going all in with a roster that already looked dangerous. Others questioned Dallas's decision, wondering what could justify giving up the heart of their defense. And then it got even messier.
Man, I normally don't even say nothing to do this, but the Cowboys just basically gave the division to Washington or Philadelphia. They just gave it to them. Trading Micah to the Green Bay Packers. I mean, I'm all over the place with this one. They just traded Micah Parsons away to the Green Bay Packers. So in other words, you didn't keep Mike McCarthy. You don't have a viable running back. You grabbed a receiver in Pickens, but yet and still, you're not really trying to win a championship. Cowboy Nation, man, I feel y'all pain. Michael Irvin, that is. I feel your pain, brother. I'm watching this go down in real time right now, and it's just something that caught my eyes, because I normally won't even speak on this on social media, but I got to right now. I got to. They just traded away their best defensive player. I want to see what they get in return, though.
Because while fans argued over stats and picks, the real story was unfolding behind closed doors, where fractured relationships, contract disputes, and power plays were reaching a boiling point. This wasn't just a trade. This was years of tension erupting in public. And here's the part that makes it even more unbelievable. Just weeks ago, Micah himself laughed off the idea of leaving Dallas. He literally sat next to a Packers player during an interview and called himself a Cowboy for life. Clearly, somebody changed their mind. And fast. But why now? What went so wrong behind the scenes? You're about to find out. On the surface, the trade looked business savvy, cold, calculated, maybe even strategic. But the moment you dig deeper, you realize this wasn't just about building a team. This was about control, pride, and burning bridges.
All right, the Green Bay Packers give up 2 firsts and Kenny Clark. The Green Bay Packers viewed themselves as a Super Bowl team, and they're probably right. They have the coach, the running game. They just couldn't get a consistent pass rush. Micah Parsons provides that. Micah and the Cowboys and Jerry got very personal. I think he's a great fit in Green Bay. And I also like what Dallas did. I would have moved him pre-draft. Dallas gets 2 first-round picks. They get Kenny Clark. He's older, but he's a really good interior defender. But Dallas is not a Super Bowl team. I've told you I think they're 4th place in their division. I think they'll have a top 8 pick. Now maybe worse. The defense is bad with Micah Parsons. Without him, guaranteed to be atrocious. Dallas is acknowledging we're not a Super Bowl team. It's rebuild time. I would have done it pre-draft, but it wasn't a great draft anyway. Maybe in their eyes, they wanted more draft picks for next year's draft, which has minimum 5 first-round quarterbacks, maybe up to 7. Love it for Green Bay, a much better franchise right now. Dallas is saying, we're not a Super Bowl team. We need to rebuild. I like the move. And just think about it this way. Dallas, let's say Dallas ends up with an 8th draft pick. They could use up to 3 first-round picks to move up to get maybe not Arch Manning, maybe not the number 1 quarterback, maybe not Drew Aller if he's the number 1 quarterback, but you probably get the 2nd-best quarterback in a strong quarterback draft class. Take a deep breath. You're not a Super Bowl team. Long-term, it's a good play for Dallas.
The deal was simple, but bold. The Packers sent 2 first-round picks and veteran defensive lineman Kenny Clark to Dallas. That's not just a decent haul. That's blockbuster value, especially for a team like Green Bay that already has a young quarterback, a solid offensive line, and playoff expectations. Add Micah Parsons to that mix, now you're talking real Super Bowl potential. But for the Cowboys, let's not sugarcoat it. This looked like a white flag. Trading away your most dominant defensive weapon in his prime in a make-or-break season, that's not a move you make if you're trying to win now. That's a move you make if you're playing for next year, or maybe even the one after that. And here's the kicker. This deal didn't happen at the draft. It didn't happen before OTAs. It happened right before the season kicks off. giving the locker room barely any time to adjust, and fans even less time to process. Insiders say the Cowboys originally didn't even want Clark involved. They wanted straight draft capital, but Green Bay pushed to include him, likely knowing Jerry Jones would have to sell something to the fans, and Clark's name would soften the blow. Except it didn't, because people saw through it. You can't replace Micah Parsons with a 30-year-old interior lineman and call it even. Not when the guy you're giving up can wreck a game with a single snap. So how did a team go from building around Micah Parsons to shipping him off before week 1? It all started behind the scenes with money, ego, and one major relationship breakdown. Micah's agent, David Mulugeta, is one of the most powerful reps in the NFL. He's known for getting his clients paid, and not just paid, but compensated at the top of the market. Early on, people assumed a deal would be simple. Micah earns Defensive Player of the Year nominations in back-to-back seasons, breaks records, becomes the face of the Cowboys defense. You write the check, right? Wrong. Jerry Jones reportedly tried to pull a classic Jerry move, going around the agent and making a handshake deal directly with Micah. That's where everything fell apart. Sources say Micah might have initially agreed in the moment, but when it came time to finalize, Mulugeta wasn't having it. No agent wants to be cut out of negotiations, especially not on a deal this massive. And after years of tension between Jerry and top-tier agents, this one finally boiled over. From there, communication soured. Talks stalled. The tone shifted. What started as business turned personal fast. Jerry, known for doing things his way, wasn't going to let a 20-something-year-old agent dictate his moves. And once that line was crossed, it was over. Micah was still smiling in front of cameras, but behind closed doors, things were tense. The trust was gone. And when trust goes in an NFL front office, players follow next. That moment, that field handshake, was the tipping point. The trade wasn't just about value or fit. It was about control. But while Jerry thought he was taking back control, he may have just lost the locker room. The moment the trade went public, you could practically feel the shock ripple through the NFL. But the loudest reaction came from Dallas legends themselves, and they did not hold back. Michael Irvin, a Cowboys icon and vocal franchise supporter, looked like he had just been sucker punched on live air. His face said it all: confusion, betrayal, disbelief. He said the Cowboys just handed the division to the Eagles or Washington, calling the move one of the worst decisions he's seen in years. And then came Keyshawn Johnson, who flat out said, "This isn't about football decisions. This is pride gone wrong." According to Keyshawn, Jerry not only lost a superstar, but he sent a message to the locker room that loyalty means nothing, not even if you're a generational talent. But the wildest take came from analysts comparing Micah Parsons to Reggie White, the last pass rusher to start his career with 4 straight double-digit sack seasons. Reggie White, ... one of the most dominant defenders in NFL history, and you just let that kind of player walk? The outrage wasn't just about losing talent, it was about what it symbolized. You don't trade first ballot Hall of Fame potential unless something's deeply broken. You draft players hoping they become Micah Parsons. You don't build them up, prove they're elite, and then toss them out the door. Even ESPN analysts walked off mid-show, saying they had to take a breather because the decision made zero football sense. One went as far as calling this trade the biggest self-sabotage since Jerry let Jimmy Johnson walk. The legends see it, the fans feel it, the locker room knows it. But how good was Micah really? Next, we dig into his historic run and why this trade could haunt Dallas for decades. From the moment he stepped onto an NFL field Micah Parsons was different. Not just talented, dominant. Not just fast, unblockable. Within weeks of his rookie season, it became clear this wasn't just a good draft pick. This was a game wrecker in the making. And by year 2, he'd become one of the faces of the league. In just 4 seasons, Micah joined an elite category of players. Double-digit sacks in each of his first 4 years. A streak he shares with only one other name in NFL history. Reggie White. Let that sink in. That's the level we're talking about here. Off the edge, through the middle, it didn't matter. Micah disrupted everything. Quarterbacks flinched. Offensive coordinators rewrote game plans. He wasn't just good, he was frightening. He made an average Dallas defense look top tier. And almost overnight, he was being called the second most valuable position player in the league, behind a franchise QB. And yet, Dallas traded him. Think about that. The point of the NFL draft is to hopefully land a guy who turns into what Micah Parsons already is. Most teams go decades without finding a pass rusher like him. The Cowboys had him, developed him, branded him as the face of the defense, and then used him as a bargaining chip. And for what? Tension with an agent? A power move from Jerry Jones? Analysts, fans, even rivals can't make sense of it. This wasn't a player on the decline. This wasn't a locker room problem. This was a back-to-back All-Pro with Hall of Fame numbers halfway through his 20s. And now he's in Green Bay, about to take everything Dallas built and turn it against them. No matter how you spin it, trading Micah Parsons wasn't a win-now move. It was a rebuilding admission. And that's something Cowboys fans haven't heard in a long, long time. 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark aren't a bad return on paper. But the message it sends? Loud and clear. We're not ready to compete. Not right now. Jerry Jones may have said it out loud, but that to them, no, it's not okay. But actions always speak louder, and this one echoed through the entire fan base. Let's be real, outside of Micah, the Cowboys weren't exactly stacked with title-ready pieces. The running game is shaky. The offensive line's past its prime. There's no dominant tight end, and questions still swirl around Dak Prescott. Now subtract the one thing holding the defense together, it's hard to see a Super Bowl picture, or even a playoff one. Some insiders claim this was all part of a long-term plan. They point to next year's draft class, overloaded with elite quarterbacks. With the picks from Green Bay, plus their own, Dallas might be maneuvering to trade up for the future face of the franchise. Think Drake May, Quinn Ewers, or even the hype surrounding Arch Manning. But here's the problem. You don't just find another Micah Parsons. There's no replacing that kind of player with a draft pick or a maybe he develops linebacker. You can't teach that burst off the line, that instinct, that fire. And the question now becomes, if Jerry is truly rebuilding, will he live to see it through? Or is this just another impulsive decision in a decades-long pattern of short-sighted moves? While Cowboys fans are still reeling, up in Wisconsin, it's a different story entirely. The Green Bay Packers just pulled off what might be the smartest move they've made in a decade. Quiet, calculated, and lethal. They didn't just add another starter. They added the missing piece. Micah Parsons isn't just a great pickup. He's the weapon they've needed to go from playoff threat to legit Super Bowl contender. For years, the one knock on Green Bay? Inconsistent pressure. They had the offense. They had the discipline. But they didn't have that guy. The one who could wreck an entire drive by himself. Now, they do. In a conference where quarterbacks are mobile, explosive, and dangerous, think Jalen Hurts, Kyler Murray, even the rising Bryce Young. You need a predator on defense. Someone opposing coordinators lose sleep over. Micah brings exactly that. And the fit couldn't be better. Green Bay's system is built for his versatility. They'll let him move around, shift gaps, take advantage of mismatches. He's not just joining the defense, he is the defense now. Even better, he's walking into a locker room with stability. No agent drama, no ego battles, no Jerry Jones headlines. Just a franchise focused on one thing: winning. NFL insiders are already shifting power rankings. Analysts are calling this the best defensive move of the offseason. Within minutes of the deal dropping, Green Bay's odds to win the NFC jumped across sportsbooks. That's not hype, that's respect. And while Dallas scrambles to fill a massive hole, Green Bay just found their missing piece. The Packers quietly walked into the room, made the loudest move, and didn't have to say a word. But trust, the rest of the NFC heard it loud and clear. When the news broke, the NFL fan base did what it always does: blew up. But nowhere was the reaction more raw than in Cowboys Nation. Some fans were in total denial. Others were furious. Some took to Twitter saying they'd never buy another jersey again. Videos went viral of fans trashing their Micah Parsons posters, burning old merch, and demanding Jerry Jones step down. It felt less like a trade and more like a betrayal, because this wasn't supposed to happen. For years, Cowboys fans believed Micah was going to anchor a dynasty. He was the one, a throwback to when Dallas had elite playmakers and actual championship hopes. Trading him? It felt like pulling the plug on the dream and letting your rivals watch you bleed. And speaking of rivals, the NFC East instantly changed. The Eagles, already loaded with talent, are sitting back and smiling. They know their path just got easier. The Commanders, one of the league's biggest sleepers this season, look more dangerous by the week. And while the Giants are still finding their identity, even they probably circled their Dallas matchups a little more confidently now. It's not just that Dallas got worse, it's that the division got tighter and everyone else smelled blood. This trade did more than adjust rosters. It shifted power. It rattled a fan base. It may have fractured a locker room. And for the first time in 2 decades, it feels like the Cowboys brand, the image of greatness, pride, and America's team, is on life support. The responses poured in fast, but the real question still lingers. What was Jerry thinking? And has he finally done irreversible damage? In the end, this wasn't just the trade of a superstar. It was the collapse of a future Dallas fan spot was guaranteed. We all watched Micah Parsons burst onto the scene, violent off the line, relentless in pursuit, special in every single way. He wasn't just a great player. He was a new face of the franchise, homegrown, hungry, ready to carry that star on his helmet into the next era. And now, he's gone. Not because he failed the team, but because the team failed itself. Whether it was pride, politics, or plain old power struggles, Jerry Jones made a choice. Not a football decision, a cherry decision. And once again, the Cowboys' search for greatness takes a back seat to the circus that always seems to follow this franchise when they're close to something real. Meanwhile, Green Bay just robbed the NFC in broad daylight. No drama, no headlines. Just a massive upgrade that could define their defense for the next 5 years. While Dallas resets, the Packers just loaded the clip. What's wild is, years from now, fans might not remember the exact picks, the rumors, or even the headlines. What they'll remember is that time the Cowboys had a once-in-a-lifetime player and let him walk. So here's the question. Did Jerry Jones just make the boldest move of his career or the biggest mistake in Cowboys history? Let us know what you think in the comments. Fans, rivals, everyone. Was Micah's trade a smart rebuild move or the final crack in the Cowboys? Foundation? No matter what side you're on, one thing's for sure. This story, it's far from over.